Since we're facing north, it's not going to get midday sun.
Right.
If you know these pine trees are going to be at least twice as tall in 20 years. So you've got to compensate. That'll be blocking all that midday sun.
So if we put these trees here, how far apart distance between them would you recommend?
I like to do 30 to 35, depending on the situation. Usually 35 feet apart for bigger hardwoods. These trees grow, and we're trying to grow acorns and nuts and fruits. And the traditional spacing of 15 feet that everybody thinks is the correct spacing, in 10 years their branches will be touching. And without sunlight and photosynthesis, you're not going to get nearly as many acorns and nuts or persimmons or whatever unless they've got a full canopy.
You going to put some fertilizer out with these now, or is that a later yearly application?
I like to do it right when you plant, and that's against what most people say to do, but I think a lot of nurseries are scared to recommend fertilization because they're scared that the client is going to kill their tree. Well, if you do it right, you're only going to help your tree. The trick is to try and kind of crack the ground open and bust open any hard layers.
So you're really not even digging a hole?
You're digging a hole, but you're not taking the dirt out of the hole. If you don't take it out, it's not going to get lost. The worst thing you can do is dig a big hole and throw all your soil over to the side, and then not all of it gets back in the hole. It rains, and then your tree is deeper than the soil around it.
Right.
And it'll just sit there. It won't grow. It needs to be level with the existing ground, or on a poorly drained clay, it actually helps to be raised a little bit, almost like you're planting on a miniature pitcher's mound. I like to get my fingers and push some of that dirt right up against the roots. The soil is like a huge sponge. It has a matrix potential, and if it's wet here, this is going to be wet. It's going to draw in. That's good. And now all we need to do is get out our zip ties. In the south, which we are, I like to push it in a little bit. In the north, I like it just kind of sitting on top of the surface where some cold air can get in there in the fall and help it go dormant. The perforations on this tube need to go to the top for aeration, and it's not perforated at the bottom to facilitate spraying some type of contact herbicide if you want to. Well, you want to go ahead and put some of these in the ground?
Yeah, let's do it before this rain moves in. Good timing if it does rain this afternoon, though.
We got some sawtooth oaks that we're planting, and then we have some chestnut trees that we're going to be planting in one big field.
There are very few things you can plant, put out, whatever, to get deer in the south out before dark, but sawtooth acorns are one of those.
Yeah, we got two areas in specific that the reason we're planting the trees in those areas is because we know we're the deer bed, and we want them to be able to work their way across those fields in the afternoons, hopefully to harvest them there in the mornings when they're working back through to go to their bedding areas. Planting trees does add value to your property should you decide to ever sell it, which I really don't plan on, but you never know what the future holds. Mr. Dudley, let me ask you, time we plant this tree and we've got it in the ground with the fertilizer and the tree shelter and all around it, the tube, how much would somebody have, say if somebody planted a dozen of these trees, how much money you think they would have?
Yeah. By the time you put in the tube and the stake and the seedling, it's cheaper than a bag of fertilizer.
Really?
Cheaper than a 50-pound bag of fertilizer.
And then they last forever.
Right.
For somebody to enjoy generation to generation.